very good afternoon, TSL. So today I'm here to present my research on the topic teaching vocabulary using collocations for grade 10 students in a government school in Negombo.
Go ahead, please.
So this is the outline for my today's presentation. I'll be starting up with the introduction and then my literature review, methodology, data analysis, findings and suggestions, and finally my referencing list. Moving on to the introduction, so I'll briefly introduce my topic. So my topic is based on vocabulary teaching here in Sri Lanka. When it comes to vocabulary learning and teaching, vocabulary plays a huge role in language acquisition. According to MC Carthy 1988, vocabulary forms the biggest part of the meaning of any language. But researchers like Fernando 2018 have mentioned in their researches that teachers in Sri Lanka often tend to pay more attention towards grammar and less attention towards vocabulary teaching. So based on that, it is important to pay attention in vocabulary teaching in language classrooms. So my research is based on the two methods, the traditional teaching method and also the vocabulary teaching through collocations method. So it takes an experimental style. So what traditional method is basically about giving definitions, giving visuals, synonyms, or else giving examples, using a sentence in order to understand a word, or also the direct translation methods like that are under traditional method. And also vocabulary teaching collocations method is basically about introducing a word with the words that which can collocate with it. So vocabulary traditional method only focuses on one lexical item, while the vocabulary teaching methods through collocation focuses on different vocabulary which can collocate with each other. So teaching new vocabulary, according to Fernando 2018, teaching new vocabulary using the traditional method has not met the requirements of effective communication through all these years. It's regarding second language learners here in Sri Lanka, and collocation-based vocabulary learning approach can have a positive impact on second language learners as students are exposed to different word combinations. So my research problem indicated in this research is to explore whether vocabulary teaching using collocations can improve students' vocabulary acquisition and whether they can use them effectively in a sentence. My research questions are: question 1, does teaching new vocabulary through collocations improve the vocabulary knowledge of second language learners when compared to the traditional vocabulary teaching methods? And my research question 2, does it help students to understand the usage of vocabulary by this method? My research objectives are to examine the importance of teaching new vocabulary through collocations and also to identify the difference between traditional method and teaching vocabulary through collocations method in students' performance in assessments. Moving on to my literature review. So my literature review indicates previous studies on teaching vocabulary through collocations, and then the traditional vocabulary teaching methods in Sri Lanka, categorizations of collocations, pedagogical aspects and students' performance, and finally the conclusion. When it comes to previous studies on teaching vocabulary through collocations, researchers such as Nettinger 1999, SCAP 2016, Faggy and R.H.O.B.F 2015, Toiler 2002, and Biscuit 1995 are some of the popular researchers who have shown some interest towards this vocabulary teaching method. So I have explained about their researchers in my literature review, and then traditional vocabulary teaching methods in Sri Lanka. Now this part I have explained about some of the traditional vocabulary teaching methods used here in Sri Lanka, such as direct translation method, memorization of definitions, synonyms, and understanding a word through examples, or else even with the improvement of the technology, we have now game-based activities. So even though these methods are very effective, still these methods are considered as traditional vocabulary teaching methods, as it only focuses on one lexical item. When it comes to the categorizations of collocations, according to Firth 1960, collocations are the words which accompany each other to make sense. And also Gabriel's 1993 has mentioned in one of his studies that we cannot use words as we want, as there are restrictions for some words, and we should use them carefully. Also, A.L. has mentioned in his research that there are two types of collocations known as the lexical and grammatical. So lexical are basically collocations which have a combination of different word classes, such as nouns plus verbs, verbs plus adjectives, and so on. And grammatical collocations follow a single word with grammatical components such as prepositions, conjunctions, or clauses. According to Hill 2000, these are some of the most frequently used types of collocations. As you can see, verb plus adverb, noun plus verb, verb plus noun, adverb plus adjective, adjective plus noun. Pedagogical aspects and students' performance. When concentrating on the teaching techniques in the teaching methodology called the collocations method, Summation 2001 and Ellis 2003 have suggested that highlighting collocations in learning materials, engaging in exercises related to collocations, and teaching collocations in different contexts will improve students' productive skills. Moving on to my methodology chapter. So my whole methodology chapter is designed and structured according to A.L. Naphani 2021's research article. So my sampling method for the research is the quota sampling method, and then my research participants are grade 10 second languages learners from government school in Negombo, and there were 60 participants. So the 60 participants were divided into two groups as the control and the experimental group. So for the control, I conducted teaching sessions for both the groups, control and experiment. For the control group, I only used the traditional teaching techniques. But for the experimental group, I used the traditional teaching techniques because I had to introduce them the new words, and also I used the collocation-based methods where I explain those words using collocations by giving examples and different activities. So my data collective method for the research was a quantitative data collection method. I gave them a post test after the teaching sessions, and also I gave a questionnaire to answer my research question number 2 for the experimental group. Moving on to the data analysis chapters, this is like a summary of my data. Now this graph shows the post-test scores of my control and experimental groups. So the orange shows the performance of control group, and the blue shows the experimental group. So as you can see here, the students were average level students. There were students from different proficiency levels in that class. So according to that, the experimental group has scored more than the control group. And then this graph represents the questionnaire responses. So most of the students have strongly agreed and agreed to the questions, and also there's a number of students who have disagreed with the teaching method, but there are no students who have extreme dissatisfaction towards the teaching method. As there were students with different proficiency level, some students might find it difficult to understand the teaching method. moving on to the findings and suggestions. So the results of this study highlight that teaching vocabulary using collocations is more effective than only using the traditional teaching techniques. So the post-test scores clearly showed that the group taught using collocations better than the group taught through only traditional method. Also, this supports by the earlier research by Nation 2001 and Lewis 2000, which found that collocations help students retain language better and use it more fluently. Also, the students' feedback supported the success of the collocations based method. So recommendations for recommendations would be like incorporating collocations in English language teaching, use of interactive teaching methods, and assessments and practice strategies. Also, teacher training and curricular development can also be done. Limitations of my study. So I had a very small population of 60 participants. So it made it hard to generalize the findings.
Can we omit the term recommendations and maybe suggestions? Understand, generally normally academic research, I normally don't like recommendations. Understand?
Okay. And also since this study focuses only one government school which is situated in Negombo, it might be different for other international schools and other government schools which are located in different areas. For example, Colombo government schools. And these are the references that I've been using throughout my research. So I would like to conclude my presentation by saying that collocation-based teaching method can actually benefit the students in their language learning journey. Thank you.
Okay. Now it's a little just by saying collocation method is beneficial compared to other methods, how better it is, you need to explain, understand. What are the other methods, understand, right? How and why it's better, and what are its better outcomes when compared to other methods, understand. You can't, any method is beneficial, understand. You have to say, understand, compared to these methods, understand, this method is better because of these reasons as shown by the test. And also vocabulary in terms of collocation based teaching or whatever, right? How does it improve, right? What particular aspects of vocabulary does it improve, understanding? These are things that you need to elaborate a little more. Just by saying that it's beneficial is not strong enough, understand. You need to explain your conclusions, or you need to explain your recommendations, understand, not the recommendations, findings further, understand. Just to say beneficial or just to say that it's an important method, that's not knowledge. Are you clear?